Alright, so today, not much of a video, but I did get my electronics, my box for this in today. So now I want to get the rest wrapped up. I have high torque digital servos for the steering and the shifter just because they got them cheap and found them on the Amazon. So I want to try and use them in the truck. But I've read that they got problems with draw too much power for the MFC01. So I am going to use this BAC. I'm going to make a harness to splice this in for power, and I'm also going to make a jumper to bypass it, to bypass them power wise from the MFC01. What I have to work with here is old extensions from an airplane that I had. Just happens to be what I got, so that's what I'm going to use. They already got some plugs on them on the ends, so I should be able to just cut and split some wires and stuff. One, they don't need to be this long. Matter of fact, they can be very short. Icky, icky. Ugh. Alright, so I only need 2 of these and 3 of these. So one will be BEC, one will be steering, one will be transmission. One of these will be steering into the MFC01, one will be transmission. Stick on there real good. I'm just going to get them all, what's the word? Oh man, I can't think about it. Wet them with some solder. Tinned, there we go. We're going to get them all tinned. Once they're tinned, they'll be pretty much, the ends will be secured and ready to go together in whichever configuration I want. So, small wires that go super fast. There we go. Now they're all tinned. Now that they're all tinned, oh, we're gonna need to figure out what goes where. So let's get these blacks touching. And then like that. So they need to be like that. I don't have enough hands for this. Let me get this little grounding rod soldering spider. Need some heat shrink. Kind of tight, but he will. So let's use it. I made my little connections on there fairly small, so hopefully I shouldn't need a whole thing of this. Let's cut it in half. Then I got 2, one for later. Let's put it on this one here. Oh boy, that's gonna cause some problems, isn't it? Let's put it on this side, I guess. Alright, let's get some solder. Alright, my grounds are grounded. Let's get some heat shrink on it. Get it roughly centered. And heat shrunk. All of my reds are going to touch, so it has power to every servo. There we go. Wait a second. I'm silly. I want these reds touching each other, but I don't want the reds going to the servo at all because they're the power. That's what I'm trying to cut out of there. So let me cut it right after my joint there. So that's how it's going to get power from the BEC to all the servos with that right there. And now the servos. So now, one of these is a BEC, so it doesn't need a white at all. So let's go. If that one's a BEC, he gets nothing. So now these, white to white, and that's going to be our servo connection. Alright, now that they're already tinned, I can just tap, tappy, tap. Some heat shrink on there. And now this one, he needs a servo. So this is the signal wire, in case you didn't know. So it can still talk. And one of them gets grounded because from everything I've read, it still needs to be grounded to the thing that's doing the talkie talks. So that's, we want to keep that. Now, I want to put a little heat shrink over all my randos that aren't getting hooked up. Let's see what happens with this. So I need to remember BEC is the bottom, right? Because there's no white hookup. One is the other, and one is the other, the top. We'll make the two tops. Oh, it doesn't quite fit over that end. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to open it up a little bit. Wow, I did not expect that. So like I said, top to top, bottom to middle, so that BEC goes there. Now my BEC needs a jumper. Or I mean, yeah, it's gonna need a jumper, so that way power can go from a battery to that, and I don't want to change the wiring on the actual truck. So let's do that next. We will need a man and a lady. And once we have our man and a lady, I'm gonna get another man and a lady. So I got two men, two ladies. I need some wire, some power wire. So here's some wire. It's just gonna be a jumper, so it doesn't need to be long at all. Take that piece. Whoa. Alright, so now for my connections. I want to put my men and my ladies together. That way I don't melt any of the pins out of place. Too much heat. To loosely hold my stuff. Alright, so the red is the back side. So now what we want to do, this is already tinned, this isn't. So let's get this tinned on one end. So let's get these cut and tinned. Now that they're both tinned, I want some of this for them. So that little guy likely won't really fit that well with this other one. Oh, that might. So he won't really fit that well. So we'll kind of put him on afterward. Because I want to heat this up. Melt some solder in there. And then jam a wire in while it's a hot molten mess. Let's get this guy down and tag him on the end because he, like we determined, can't actually fit in there anyway. So now he's tagged on. Clean up this solder here. Take it and fling it. It'll absorb it and then you'll fling it right off. So now let's do the same thing with the black. The negative, you want to make sure you're hooking up your correct polarities. And this little guy, he'll go on the outside nicely. Now with him on there, let's slide our red heat shrink down where it goes. I don't want to do the black yet because that's still very hot. Let's get our black, our negative. Let's get that one in place too, the heat shrink. Heat shrink it. Alright, now that I have that heat shrunked, we need to do the other end. I don't want to leave this other plug on until it completely cools, and then they should be able to come on and off easily. Well, as easily as they normally are. Now this one I want to make sure I do the opposite. And if you look at the opposite is a little shallower, so I'm not going to strip as much off here. I'm still going to tin them and do everything like I did on the other one. Alright, there we go. Get just a little bit on the back side so it transfers the heat really well and quickly. Look at that, really quick transfer of heat. And then we'll actually put some heat on the heat shrink. Who'd have thought? And then once it's in place, it's in place. Done skis. So now I made a jumper to bypass the RX, if you will, for my BEC. And then I made a jumper here so that way I can plug in line with the battery and put my BEC in line without hard wiring anything. That's the key. That's really the advantage of this jumper that I just did. Makes it so you don't have to hardwire all this stuff in. You could very well do it, hardwire it, but you know what happens if you got to change something. Now that I have my bike pass harness made, let me show you how I hooked it up. So, I have my BEC here, the wire's wrapped up, but connects into here. See that wire color? So that one's your BEC. And that splits its power right back out to these two servo wires. These two servo wires run to my steering and my shift linkage. And then the other ends of them, my signal wires and my grounds, are plugged in here. So pretty much it's a receiver bypass harness for a BEC. So that way you don't need to disconnect your ESC. However, since the MFC does its own thing, I didn't do that through my receiver. I did it through this, pretending as if this were my receiver. So these are 20 kilogram digital high torque servos, which are not supposed to be able to work with this, and that's how I made that happen. Now another thing I need to do while I'm in here, because I don't want to be taking this off on and off all the time, is this. So I tried it yesterday. Once I got it all hooked up, it doesn't quite pull enough to disengage that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on its own channel, so that way I don't need to worry about the dual rates and all that for setting it up with the Spectrum, so it'll just go on its own thing. That being said, I can't disconnect it there. I've got to disconnect it here. And I think this will work, but again, not too sure. So now once I unplug it out of there, I'm pretty much going to bypass this completely and run it on its own dedicated additional channel here. So I'm going to run it on the flap channel, which would be aux 1. Let's plug it in and see what happens. Oh, I'm so scared to plug it in after I ran into some issues. Alright, so there we go. Does it vibrate? It drives. So there's my digital high torque servos. Working away. Nice. Alright, now let's try this fifth wheel. See, it does nothing because it's on flat. So now I just want to adjust that till it's open. And that's pretty much it. And that spring isn't quite enough, is it? So I'm gonna have to figure out something else about that spring there to really make this work smoothly. And then it doesn't reset. Well, let's see if when I jam it in there, if it does. Yep, it's locked in there. So I guess that'll work. That's kind of cool. I haven't hooked up any lights yet. Let's see what it does, right? Let's disconnect this battery first. Well, gotta turn it off. Well, she's pretty low, guys. Going high gear. Nope. Stuck on the ground. Man, that is low, huh? So as it turns out, I may have to lift this a little bit, considering it can't even make it over gravel on my pavement. So yeah, apparently less than a 1/4 inch isn't quite enough. You can see those nuts and bolts under there, they got like an 1/8 inch of ground clearance. Yeah.